For many of you, our next inductee needs no introduction. Roberta Kelly, Professor Emeritus, worked for nearly 5 decades at WSU, including 35 years in the Murrow College, where she taught reporting and science writing and coordinated and taught the college's media writing courses. With a background in animal science, biology, veterinary science, and communication, Roberta played a pivotal role in shaping the writing generations of Murrow students and writing instructors, and garnered recognition for her dedication to students as well as service to the academic community. Please join me in watching this video to honor Roberta Kelly.
Hi, Murrow Cougs. My name is Roberta Kelly. I was a professor of practice in the journalism and mass media department in the Murrow College for 35 years. I got a degree in animal science. I worked in research and development for Avon Cosmetics for a year in bacteriology. I decided to go back to school and then eventually, came down here to Pullman because of the veterinary school. On my way home from work at the veterinary college one day, I decided to stop off in the comm school or department then and see how long it would take me to get a journalism degree. One summer school session and then 1 year, a fall and a spring, and I would have everything I needed to get the journalism degree. And I thought, well, that's not too bad. Well, in the meantime, I had finished the journalism program. One Friday afternoon, late, it was really late, I had dropped stuff off. I was walking out the door and I passed Chuck Cole's office. Chuck Cole was our journalism faculty. He was on the phone, he was really upset. So I was trying to tiptoe past his office and get out the door, and then I could hear he slammed down the phone and he came rushing out of that office. Basically what happened was they had hired somebody to come in and teach this beginning writing class. I think it was 225 back then, Com 225. And Friday night, before classes started Monday morning, this guy said he wasn't coming. And they had nobody, and the class was completely enrolled, so you're not canceling this class, you can't. And it's like, what do you do? What do you do? You have nobody, Well, here's nobody. I didn't know AP, I didn't know what that meant. App, what's an app? I don't know what app, what's a style rule? I said, my famous last words is, don't worry about it. I said, but this is what you have to do. As soon as I turn around and leave here, you get looking for somebody else, because this is it. This is a one shot. I'm done after this semester. I am done. You got that? You hear me? How dumb was I that he gave me the gift of a lifetime and I didn't know it, and I just kept pushing him off and tried so hard not to do it. That turned out to be the best job on earth. It was fun. It was just a fun job because it was such a challenge and every day was so different. My accomplishments are my kids. I mean, honestly, I think them all as my kids. And I still hear from kids. I get lots of wedding invitations, baby pictures and things like that. So it's like a huge extended family. I mean, it really is a cougar family to me. So probably always will be.
She always wants to see her students succeed, and although sometimes she may come off as a little bit stricter than other professors, it kind of made me be more cautious in my reporting and writing. Yeah, having her just kind of helped me become the journalist I am today.
I didn't know virtually anybody at WSU, and the few people I did know told me to drop Roberta's class and take something easier. And I really didn't know what I was doing, so of course I stuck with the class I had, and I am so grateful that I did. I have been a journalist for the Associated Press. I have been the owner of a 30-year PR company, and I just returned from being U.S. Ambassador to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. And I will tell you that the skills I learned in Roberta's class were absolutely applicable in each one of those careers. And it's proven to be invaluable in my career. Roberta, I love you, I honor you, and please know that my success is your success, because without you, I would not be here.
maybe I was lucky. I think I just lucked into it. But certainly Chuck Cole opened the door for me. And if he hadn't forced me into it, I never in a million years would have pursued anything like that. And it was the greatest gift. A lot of kids might not think so, but it was for me.
Congratulations, Roberta. And on behalf of the thousands of students that you taught, thank you.
Well, like Scott, I have to say, I thought this was an April Fool's joke. Because when Bruce wrote, and I thought, oh, it's April 1st, he's pulling my chain, you know. It's like, you know, there were so many people who have done so many great things, and I think, well, you know, I worked for 35 years, and I took my paycheck, and that was good. That was fine. That's, you know, that's what it is. And so this was like completely unexpected, and I have to say, I still can't get my head around it. And so I wrote to Bruce and I said, right, this is April Fool's joke, right? And he said, no, really, it's for real. And I said, oh, okay, I guess, you know. But my careers have been kind of strangely organized. I did work in science for 15 years, and I'm afraid I'm a bit of a butterfly. You know, I do things for a while, and then something else comes along that was a little bit more interesting, and it's like, oh, I quit. Let me go do this, you know. So the first job I had after graduation in science was with Avon, and 2 weeks in, I knew it was a terrible mistake. I wasn't much for industry, and I didn't fit, and I knew it, and I thought, that's all right, I'll make it a year to make enough money to go back to school, and I did. But what happened was, I had friends who were going cross-country camping, and I thought, oh my God, this is a great chance to do something fun. So I quit. You know, my mother, to the day she died, she would always say, why did you leave that job? That was such a good job. And my mom, to my mom, you know, like Mr. Smith, my parents were Depression people. So, you know, having a steady income was terribly important. And education was a golden snitch. And having a job at Avon was certainly a chance to make a good income, which I did. And it was also a chance to meet a nice guy. You're going to meet a nice guy. So I grew up in the Bronx, so you know, so it was all about meeting a nice guy, which meant somebody who had good employment and a big paycheck. And you know, pretty soon I'd have a house in Long Island and lots of little kids, and she would be happy. So I think she was bitterly disappointed all of her life that I didn't keep that job. But my dad understood. He understood right away what it was like, because while I don't have any experience at all for the job I held for 35 years, I had come from a back shop family, and my dad drove a truck delivering ink rollers to printing presses in New York City and Jersey. And my uncle was a ink salesman, and I had two cousins who did laser work at the New York Times, and one was president of the Printers Union. So our dinner time conversation, especially when strikes were looming, you know, was all about how are we going to get food on the table? How are we going to get food on the table? Because in my house, you know, it was also, my parents were cursed with a work ethic, which they handed down to me. And then they also were big on doing favors. And I think
also, as Harry has said, that is part of depression think, you know, that you did what you could to help other people get through that awful time. And so my dad, God bless his soul, always worked more than one job. He'd come home, have dinner, run across the street and pump gas all night, and, you know, until it was time to come back and shower and change and then get on the train and go to work, you know. And I watched him do that day in and day out for so many years. And he had to support my grandma because my grandfather had Parkinson's. He couldn't work. And then my aunt was widowed early. Her husband died of leukemia. She had a baby at home. She couldn't work. So my dad's supporting 3 families. And so, you know, the work ethic was there, but I'm thinking, boy, you know, I know one thing I don't want to do. I don't want to live in the Bronx anymore. I'm out of here. and as soon as I can, I would like to go. And the other thing was I just, I wanted some freedom, you know, and I didn't have that. I had 12 years of Catholic school. And the way, so I you know, I had the grammar skills down, but I had no practical experience. And if you had asked me growing up what I wanted to be, I would have never in 1,000 million, 100 billion years said a teacher. And that was like, why? You know, I was going to do that. You know, that does not sound interesting at all. But, you know, when I had the chance and it was by chance that I got the second career, as I had said in the tape, that, you know, Chuck Cole gave me my life. I mean, he actually literally gave me my life. Without Chuck Cole, I don't know what would have happened, you know, except probably I wouldn't have been in the Bronx anyway. But other than that, he just did everything for me. And, you know, just that argument that day, not just Chuck, but whoever was on the phone and decided they didn't want the job and they weren't going to come, and they hung him out to dry because everybody had assignments. There was no one to teach the class. And I, you know, being a smart mouth, you know, I just said, oh, I said, you know, that's too bad. That's really unfortunate. I'm sure that's problematic for you. But, you know, on the upside, you got 2 days. This is Friday night. And you got to Monday. What do you know, what's the worry? So don't worry. And I said, you'll find somebody. And, you know, he looked at me. He didn't need 2 days. He had like 2 seconds. And he said the 4 magic words. He said, you can do it. And I said, oh my, have you lost your mind? Of course I can't do it. I know nothing. You know, I know nothing about except what I took in class. You know, I took 3 semesters just to get the degree so that I could go on and have some credentials to do some science writing. That was the goal. It wasn't ever anything else. And and I really did say to him, you know, you have got to find somebody like right away, or I'm going to come back and kneecap you because I'm not. This is not part of the game plan. You know, I gave up a well-paid job, you know, and I took 3 semesters. I used up a bunch of money to start another career, and you just threw a big kink in it, you know. And I'm doing this as a favor to you because you're my role model, and because I come from a long line of favor doers, and I couldn't say no. You know, he was a journalism professor with a really thick skin. He was irreverent, spoke truth to power. Never backed down, and would routinely edit the dean's memos in red ink and send them back across the street with a grade at the bottom, usually failing. And when confronted, he would just say, hey, you know what? You got the job. You ought to be able to do it. Attitude, and he carried that attitude into class. And maybe it's because I came from a long line of Kellys and Callahans and grew up having a thick skin, because in our family, if you didn't have it, it didn't last long. And, you know, so I appreciated that. And somebody once said to me, you know, you're a blue-collar person working in a white-collar world. And I thought, you know, that really sums it up. But the backstory to that is it often made you feel second class. And it was very hard not to feel second. And I could feel that from him. And I thought, you know, it was the same for you. But the difference is at the end, it made him bitter. And I thought, I don't want to go there, you know. But he, in the 4 words that he said to me, "You can do it," he really did change my life. And I honestly, I just owe everything to him. And that first class, that news writing class, it came with a lot of anxiety for the students because they had to test into it. It was very competitive. We didn't have room for everybody. So the only way we could fairly assign the seats was to test kids. So we gave them a writing test, a little grammar quiz, and what else? Probably news judgment kind of thing. And they had to get a certain score to get a seat. You know, we had maybe, I don't know, 40 seats, something like that. So there's a lot of anxiety because if you didn't pass, you're either looking for another major or you're hanging around another semester to try to take the test again. I mean, you know, you got to go home and explain that to your mom and dad. My mother would have taken my head off. And all this money here, what are you doing? You know, she would have been very unsympathetic. So it's, you know, I understood that it was hard. And the first lesson, when I got to the classroom that day, and Chuck kept saying, "No problem," you know, because the next word out of his mouth was, "No problem, I'll help you." Yeah, right. Help was, "Here's all the books." You know, have a nice weekend. So, you know, it's go home and you cram, and I never crammed so much for the first 2 hours of the class. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I'm in my mid-30s, I'm supposed to know what I'm doing, and it's like I don't know. But I could see right away that the real problem wasn't so much the learning of the material. The kids were capable of learning the material. The problem was the anxiety level was like enormous. And until you get over that or get them over that, they're not going to learn anything. You know, you can't get past that. It's very hard. And so I guess I tried to make it my goal not to get bitter. And even though I got frustrated, and as I tried to tell the kids, I'm not your mother. You know, you don't have to like me, but you got to work for me. You know, it's on the board. Follow the board. Just follow. It's right there. It's all written there. Just follow it. You can read, right? You can read. You know, so I would get kind of snarky, I admit it. But, you know, it was with a goal because I thought, you know, if I could get your attention for 1 millisecond, that's all I need. I can make a point. Make a point, and you're going to. So I did make them caretakers for my cat. So everybody knew I had a cat. They knew his name. They knew everybody else in my house was sound asleep, and I'd be up editing papers, grading papers, you know, because it's so important to have all the edits on there. You can't just slap a grade on there and give it back and expect somebody to know what's wrong, you know. So I do all these edits, and then I'd say at the bottom of the paper, if it wasn't so good, I'd say I kicked the cat, or my cat died last night. You know? So for years afterwards, people would, if I ran into kids, they'd always say, "How's your cat? You still got the cat?" You know, it's kind of funny. But it's like, so some, you know, some classes respond to humor, I found, others not. But, you know, in my heart, they were my family. Every kid was family. And that class was so much work. You know, later I got to teach upper division writing classes, reporting and science writing, and the science communication jobs kind of found their way to me, and so I did those too. But my heart always was with that beginning class, because that was the foundation class. That's the most important part of the work. If you get that first class in there solid, the kids can go on, they can do anything, you know. The hardest thing is to write one clear, simple sentence at a time. You know, it's so hard to teach that, to sell that. But, you know, to any students out there, you know, I would just really ask you to remember that nobody's in your corner more than your instructors. You're always pulling for you. We just don't want you to know it exactly, because we don't want you to take advantage, you know how it is. So it's just like, you know, we just want you to do your best. But at the end, we're not gonna lie and say you're doing okay if you're not, because that's not smart. That won't serve you in the long run. And we didn't want you to build on sand. We wanted you to build on something solid, because if you build on sand, you're gonna sink. The question is when. When are you gonna go down? So, you know, it was always, I hope you have all your rude surprises in my class so that you don't get a pink slip later on for doing the same kind of mistake. You know, I can fail you, no big deal. You know, lose the grade, don't lose the lesson. For God's sake, if you get fired, just don't tell them you were in my class. I would always say, tell them you took it with Bruce. So, thank you.